Happy Easter, everybody. Coming up on today's show, we're taking a look at some risers from Alabama's spring practice. Before we get into that, though, make sure you guys hit that like button for me. We are trying to get to 10,000 likes in the month of April, and we're just over 1,000 away from that. We're probably not going to hit all 1,066 on this video right here, but we can definitely make a dent in that number. So help me out. Make sure you like today's video for me right now. All right, the first riser for the Crimson Tide this spring, I'm going to put Daniel Hill up on there. This was a guy that, I don't think the coaching staff necessarily expected him to really take the steps that he has into possibly getting some playing time this year. And I say possibly, but it really does sound like, Daniel Hill is going to get some serious run for Alabama in that running back room next year. And your top three guys, man, Jam Miller, Richard Young, Daniel Hill, that sounds like a really, really solid trio for Alabama next season. This is what Ryan Grubb said about Daniel Hill last week, I believe it was, after their spring practice press conferences, I guess you could call it. He said, and then there's Daniel Hill, I thought was one of the guys that maybe stood out as much as anybody this spring. I thought he really did a nice job. He's a physical runner, very nimble for how big he is, can stick his foot in the ground and get vertical, excellent pass catcher out of the backfield, and showed a lot of toughness throughout the spring. I thought he really showed up quite a bit and improved as much as anybody out there. Now, like I said, you got some really solid running backs in this room. I still wonder, there hasn't been anything as of filming this video anyways, about Alabama adding another running back in the transfer portal, because Ryan Grubb also said, I believe it was that same press conference, that this running back room probably wished they would have had more than 6 guys back there, considering all the guys that not necessarily were injured, but were definitely banged up last year. And, you just were not able to get a lot of really solid production out of your running back room last year. Really, it was Jam Miller and Jalen Milroe, Justice Haynes, he was banged up a lot of the season as well. And Richard Young, I think a lot of the things for him was being able to pass protect. So if Alabama's running backs can pass protect as well, that's going to be a big key to getting these guys on the field. But Daniel Hill is going to be my first riser for the Crimson Tide this spring. So let me know here in the comment section of today's video, what is your confidence level in Alabama's running back room? Scale it for me, 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end in the comment section of today's video. It's also the pinned comment of today's video, so if that ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it, get down there, and let me know what you guys think. All right, I'm going to cheat on both the second and third ones actually here. I got Rico Scott and Lotzeir Brooks. Now, both of these guys really have gotten a lot of buzz. You saw Rico Scott last year had that really nice touchdown reception from Austin Mack, and this spring he's just really taken that next step forward. And you talk about the depth of this Alabama wide receiver room, they got some really solid guys. Lotzeir Brooks, also another guy. He actually put a video out on his TikTok a couple days ago, and he was absolutely cooking everybody. It didn't matter if it was Deshaun Lee. It did not matter if it was Zabian Brown. Everybody he was going up against, he was absolutely cooking. And you look to Alabama's wide receiver room, right? You got Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, your top 2 guys, and really those were the only guys in this wide receiver room last year that did anything for you. You see C.J. Dupree and Josh Cuevas there as well. I think the next 2 guys were running backs, and then you had Kobe Prentice there at the 6th or 7th pass catcher for Alabama. You just cannot have that out of your wide receiver room. Jamarcus Shepard also talked about, we really didn't have any dogs in that wide receiver room last year. I think this year this wide receiver room is just going to take it to another level. You added Isaiah Horton in the portal, Jalen Hale also coming back from injury, Rico Scott, Lotzeir Brooks. There's been so much buzz on those guys coming out of spring camp. And then you also have Cole Adams. Jalen Mbakwe is a phenomenal talent as well. Great athlete. Bubba Hampton was banged up a lot this spring, so didn't see him throughout the spring. And then Derek Meadows also got a little bit of buzz as well. But for that second group there, Rico Scott, Lotzeir Brooks really did rise up the rankings in terms of that wide receiver room. All right, the next 2 guys that we're going to talk about here is QB Reese and Cayden Jones. This spring they got a lot of really, really good and valuable developmental reps at that linebacker position. You also got Nakai Hill-Green out of the transfer portal from Colorado. And, from the things that I've read and heard about this, linebacker 3 spot. Nakai Hill-Green is probably going to be that guy in his last year of eligibility here for Alabama, but QB Reese and Cayden Jones really did step up their game this spring, and they could also be candidates to really be pushing for that linebacker 3 spot. So I would not be surprised at all if either one of those guys got some run for Alabama next year. All right, we'll continue with the final 2 guys in here in just a second, but today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier, even for hard-to-get playoff seats. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price is guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. They also have last-minute deals that you guys can take advantage of. Save up to 60% off by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. Game Time also has zone deals. You save even more when you choose the section and let Game Time choose the seat for you, because as long as you're in the same section that you want to be in, it doesn't really matter what seat you're in, right? They also have those all-in pricing. You toggle that feature on, it shows you the total up front, so there are no surprise fees at checkout. You guys can go ahead and get tickets to Alabama football games if you want. Talladega is coming up next week as well. That is a very, very fun time. You can even go to Talladega and spend the entire week there. That gets absolutely rowdy. So if you go, definitely keep that in mind. And then also Braves games as well. You guys can always take advantage of getting those tickets on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account and redeem promo code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem promo code CHATSPORTS. That's CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. That link's in the comment section and the description of today's video. So download the Game Time app today. They have last-minute tickets at the lowest prices, all guaranteed. All right, the next player that I want to talk about here is defensive lineman Jeremiah Beaman. Now, it was my, thought process that Alabama very well could dip into the transfer portal to add at least one more interior defensive lineman. And, Kane Womack said, he was never satisfied with the depth at that defensive line position. And really the best way to combat that is to be able to just help these guys move along in terms of their progression here. And Jeremiah Beaman, definitely a guy that has taken advantage of that. This is what Kane Womack said the other day about Jeremiah Beaman. He said, I'm really pleased with Beam in the way that the steps that he has taken this spring. I think you saw pieces of that at the end of last season, even in the bowl preparation, and what he was able to do in the execution in the bowl game. He did a really nice job for us in the bowl game, and I thought took his game to another level this spring. So there's another big body and a big frame that can move. He's athletic, and he is operating with consistently that we can trust. I'm excited about his trajectory. Now, that is a very, very positive thing because Alabama, not super light in terms of numbers, I think, along that interior of the defensive line. You're still going to get Steve Mbamua, London Simmons in as well. Isaiah Fagad just really hasn't been a guy that we've really heard a lot about his development this spring. We heard a little bit about him towards the end of the spring, but it was more like, yeah, I really like how that guy's done as well. Edric Hill has really taken a step forward as well in his development, but I really think those starters are going to be Tim Keenan, James Smith, and then Jeremiah Beaman there for that third interior quote-unquote guy. Kalen DeBoer really likes to move those guys around in terms of splits, moving them outside, moving them inside. Even when you have that bandit and wolf position as well, they do a lot of different things. And Jeremiah Beaman, with his athleticism and his body size, he's definitely a guy that they can move around the defensive line. So will Alabama pursue a defensive lineman in the transfer portal? They haven't so far yet as of filming this video, but definitely do think that is a position that they could target if they see a player out there that they do like. So let me know what you guys think. Type Y for yes or N for no in the comment section for me of today's video. All right, the last player that I want to talk about today, a little bit different route here. Going to go DaShawn Jones here because really – he was a guy last year, got in games a little bit. Really, we didn't see a whole lot out of him in terms of, those in-game plays. But With some moving around so far this spring, maybe some of it had to do with the injuries that you had with Damani Jackson and other guys as well. But, you saw Red Morgan working a lot at that corner position this spring. Zay Mincy moved over to that safety spot. Really, he did that last year, but really this spring he has really come around, that being Zay Mincy. He could have been another riser on this list as well. I think Alabama really does have 3 starting caliber safeties with Keon Sabb, Ray Hubbard, and Zay Mincy there. But really, it does sound like DaShawn Jones could be the leader, if not is the leader, at that Husky spot for Alabama. Also, Drake Kirkpatrick Jr., we've heard a lot of really good things about him this spring as well. A lot of really good talent in this defensive backfield for Alabama. But DaShawn Jones, definitely going to be a guy to monitor next season.